Okay, hi there, friends. So, this is my second take. I hardly ever do two takes when I'm sitting down to do these videos, but it is what it is. So, I forgot to start it the way that I want to start it, which is by asking the question, what can I give to you today? Or in this case, what can I share with you guys today? And so, what I want to share with you is my little library that I've got here with these books. I've got the Percy Jackson series and also the Heroes of Olympus, which is also Percy Jackson. And then by the same author, Rick Riordan, I've also got the the Sadie and Carter Kane series here, and also I've got the uh, the Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel by Michael Scott in that series. I don't have all the books, so I haven't gotten a chance to reread because I'm actually missing the second of the Sadie and Carter Kane series, and I'm also missing the second of the Michael Scott series there. And I want to say thank you. Thank you to all of you guys that have been posting comments on last week's video. Now, I posted two videos last week. One was talking about the giveaway, and is it an airplane? Um, that's a loud airplane. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but um, yeah, the second one was talking about the future, just because recently I've been talking a lot about my past, and yeah, so I've been talking a lot about my past, so I wanted to talk to you guys about my future and about the future of this channel. And right now we're at 191 subscribers. I think that's amazing, or so, maybe more. I don't know, because so thank you guys. Thank you guys for subscribing, and thank you guys for commenting. And I'm surprised that I have not received a comment by Vampirith, or the winner of last week's giveaway, and his name was William. Right. So William, if you're out there listening, please reach out to me. Please post a comment either on this video or any of my videos really, and I'll be able to start that communication. And that's going to be, other than subscribing and liking the video, posting a comment is going to be one of the only requirements to receive the giveaway, because we need to be able to communicate between one another. I've already tried to do giveaways. This is the second one, and the first one I'm still waiting. If you want to reach out to me, Mind Over Matter CB, go ahead and reach out to me, and we can give you your $100. So, yeah, I mean, I would like for you guys. What I'm gonna do is, I got this idea from my wife. I'm going to, instead of just giving it away to the most recent subscriber or the number X subscriber or whatever, what we're gonna do is we're gonna whoever wants to comment on this video or the previous videos, doesn't really matter as long as you comment. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure you're subscribed. I'm gonna go ahead and put them in a pool, and then we're gonna randomize it. That way, it's not just like the most recent subscriber. That way, everybody has an equal chance of winning. So, there's that piece. But the topic of today's discussion, the reason why I have all these books here, is because I want to talk about this whole concept of truth in fiction, right? So what does that mean? Because it's kind of an oxymoron there, a little bit of a paradox, considering that fiction is not real. Like Star Wars, it must be a galaxy really far away if it really ever happened. But when we look at, if you look at multiple universes and all this stuff, I'm not going to get into that right now. Who's to say that it didn't happen? The whole point is that our universe is holographic in nature. When we look at the Nicholas Flamel books, the immortal Nicholas Flamel is the one that achieved immortality through his acquisition of the Philosopher's Stone. So, philosophy, what is philosophy? Well, it's philosophia. It's philo meaning love or lovers, of wisdom. Sophia, the goddess of wisdom. And so, what is wisdom? Who can really describe what wisdom is? I think that's, something that the quote that I like when it comes to that is that fools swear that they're wise, and wise men know that they're foolish, right? So you can call me a fool all day long. I have no problem with that. In fact, my son was born the day after April Fools. So he was born April 2nd, and his name is Sage, right? So if you know what Sage means, we had that name selected before we knew his due date of when he was going to be born. And he was actually supposed to be born on April 1st, right? So that's kind of funny. But it is what it is. Another paradox, like I'm saying here, you'll find that life has that, and that's what it is because of its as above so below. If I was to give you a hologram and I was to say, hey, try to break this hologram apart, let's say it's a hologram of a human or a person, with a head, two arms, and two legs, and all the body parts. If I was to say, hey, go ahead and take the arm off of that hologram, if you tried to cut that hologram up into pieces, it wouldn't work. What would happen is you would get little mini versions of the bigger picture or the bigger person, right? So what ends up happening is now, as above, so below, right? And that's what we find in our universe. And that even has to do, it's the same thing with creativity. When you look at Nostradamus and you look at these people, when you look at remote viewing, it's all pretty much okay. Why isn't okay? There we go. I don't know what just happened, but it's all pretty much the same thing. I think I touched something I wasn't supposed to, but anyway, it's all pretty much the same thing because when you're telling a creative story, a lot of the times, I mean, pretty much all the time, it has to be based in some kind of truth. And usually the longer the story and the more energy that is put into the story, the higher the likelihood that it's going to hit the truth, right? So what I mean by that, when I look at this one in particular, let's start out by just breaking down real quick the Percy Jackson series, the Rick Riordan one, and it's interesting because he's got Percy Jackson as a young kid, and this is the reason why I read all these books is because I told you guys about my culture shock. Well, I was looking for some kind of escape, and I would look for some kind of escape through video games and all this other stuff. And I'm glad that I did because of the lessons, right? There's always a moral to the story. I'm sure you've heard that before. And history repeats itself, right? Another story. And so we need to know history. We need to know these stories, these archetypical characters like Percy Jackson, so that we have some kind of way to navigate through our lives, right? I keep talking about that. I talked about that in last video. If you don't want to navigate your life, if you don't want to have a sail on your ship and you want to just be blown about by the winds of time, then go right ahead. If that's what you want to do with your life, totally up to you. I'm not saying that you should not do that. That's something that you have full freedom to do. If you want to go into darkness and sow bad seeds, then that's totally your life that you can reap. You will reap what you have sown. That is what it is. And so this character that we've got here, and I've talked about as well in my previous videos about having character, being a person of character, not necessarily being a character. You have to be who you are, but who you are should have some kind of foundation on principles, right? And I'm telling you guys, you may have noticed if you go back to my very first videos, I'm going to be saying the same things over and over and over again. Why? Because the truth is simple, okay? It's not something that's super complicated. Our job as human beings, our job as those that are not at the highest realm of truth, meaning we make mistakes. If we build a house in our minds, like I've talked about before, and we make it as perfect as we would like for it to be in our minds, when we come out and we build it in the world, it's never going to measure up to that perfection, right? All men shall fall short of the glory of God. Okay, that's from the Bible. Okay, I know I've shared with you guys some quotes, and that's another really good one that basically encapsulates what I just mentioned. And you can try to argue with these things left and right and the other. And if you want to pretend like the argument is a fact, then good luck. What you're doing right there is you're aligning yourself with something that's just not true, you know? And, good luck with that. Let me know what kind of harvest you get from that. But yeah, so on this channel and what I've done for myself and my family, and the reason why we have the things that we have now, which we don't have much, but what I'm doing is I want to give more. I want to give to you guys, and I want to give to as many people as possible. And the more, the reason why I want to thank you guys as well for joining me along in this journey is because the more people that align themselves with this, then the more we can give away. The more we have, like, when we get to 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to be doing $1,000 giveaway, right? We get to 10,000 subscribers, it's going to be more and more and more. And so coming back to this book here, very simple. This kid was 12 or whatever, however old he was, and he found out that he was a demigod, right? So his dad was, I don't want to spoil it too much, but his dad is Poseidon, right? So he found that out, and he had to join a camp, right? So he had to join the Half-Blood camp. And then, he went through these adventures where he defeated these monsters. And if you want to believe that there's no such thing as monsters in this world that we live in, well, that's the thing, that these monsters, they look like us. It's the whole thing of the mist, okay? In this book, Rick, I think he did a really good job. Not Rick and Morty. Richard here from Rick Riordan, which I think Rick and Morty is another great allegory. But yeah, I don't want to focus on the monsters because they all get defeated. But they are out there, for us to pretend like they're not, then, that would be fooling ourselves. When you look at the world we live in, it's not at the highest level of vibration. It's not like everything is perfect. There's plenty of darkness here on this earth, which is also the reason why some people think that they say that the gods envy us, because we have the choice to live in one side or another. For them, they are always perfect, right? Which can also be, if you're immortal, I don't know. I personally would not want to be immortal. I know, and we are, though. That's the thing. The interesting thing about it is that we are, but we don't have unlimited memory. I think there's a reason why we forget our previous lives. We have unlimited memory in the sense of this one life that we have, but I think there's probably a reason why we forget our previous lives, and why we that right there. Because if you started out this life remembering all the past trauma and all the things, then what kind of fun would that be? The another good quote that I want to talk about here and I want to bring to you guys is that the universe created itself to know itself. So what would be the purpose of the universe creating itself to know itself if it already knows itself? You know what I mean? So the whole point of it is to make mistakes. It's not to be perfect, right? So anyway, monsters are out there. And so I think he says a really cool thing, which is the mist. And this whole other quote, I don't know exactly who said it, but I found out about it from Mark Passio, that human beings, they see whatever they want to see. If you seek, you will find, right? So if you seek something out in life, then you will find it, whether it's good or it's bad, right? Our job as human beings is to align ourselves with whatever it is, whichever path you want to take. I'm not going to tell you that you have to take one path or the other, okay? But the path that this character takes in this book and these series, and I can tell you guys about the similarities between all of them, but for now I'm just going to focus on this one just to start out, and then I'm going to touch on some concepts that I find interesting from all of them. And the concept that I find interesting the most from this one is the mist, the whole concept of the mist, which I just explained, right? So if you go outside, it's this whole thing. If you read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's a paradigm, right? So if you have a paradigm shift, all of a sudden if you change the things you look at will change. And the story from this book is the story about the guy jumping onto the subway and him being with all of his kids, and his kids crying, yelling at him, and the author of the book I think his name was Steven. I'm not sure. I gotta read up on these things more. It's been a while, but at least I have I don't have the author's name, but I'm sure you can find it. You can look it up. But I have all the principles and stuff. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this is the continuum of development from that book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. But anyway, from the perspective of the author, he was thinking to himself, like, man, why are these kids crying? Like, what an irresponsible parent. Why isn't he taking care of his kids? Well, what ends up happening is when you find out later on is that their mom just died, right? So unfortunately, it's not a very good thing. So obviously the kids are shocked, and that's why they're crying, right? It's not that the dad is just irresponsible or whatever, or can't discipline his kids, is that their mom just died. So that's a paradigm shift, right? It's like, oh, there's always more to the story, right? So whether that story is true or not, that the truth in it is the whole concept of the paradigm shift. The truth in it is that we see what we want to see a lot of the times in life. Then moving on to The Blood of Olympus, I find that interesting that once you read all of Rick's books, you start to get an idea of what I talked about in my previous video, which is the concept of the year and the way the year flows, right? Did I say my previous book? In my previous video, is the way that the time flows. I talked about the spring equinox, which is coming up, and then after that is going to be the summer solstice, and then the fall equinox, and the winter solstice. And I talked about how it's basically the cycle of the sun. And I got all of that information from these books, right? So I got all of that information from fictional books. So there's truth in fiction. What else? There's the gods, right? So what is a god? Because there's many gods in this, and these are the lesser gods, but these are the higher beings to us. They stand outside of time. We've got love, right? We've got the god of war. We've got the god of storms or thunder, which is Zeus. We got the god of the waters or the oceans, right? So these things are just bigger than us. And by aligning ourselves with these things that are bigger than us, we can then become bigger, right? So then we've got philosophy. Okay, so I'm not gonna be like, hey, I know a lot about wisdom, but what I will say is auras. When you look at my my book, or not my book, my video, what is it? Hidden anime powers and hidden applications. If you watch all this fiction, you watch anime, and you watch all this stuff, you start to kind of see the thread, the common thread or the pattern. And then when you start applying it to your life, you start to really see, you get that paradigm shift when you can start to see people's energy, people's auras. Different people have different energy, and that can allow you to maybe, circumvent people that you don't want to be around, or maybe you do want to be around them. I tend to put my hand to the fire and try to help as many people as I can, which is maybe just part of my own personal path. But anyway, it is what it is, right? So yeah, I like to, but you can, at least you can gain insight. You can almost read somebody's mind when you can understand these energies, right? And it has to do with the resonant energy balloon. It's the same thing. I just, talking about this book, it talks about auras, how the main characters, one has a silver aura, one has a golden aura, right? And it talks about gods and stuff in this book as well. But anyway, yeah, it's almost like the Force, the living Force from Star Wars, right? And I can tell you guys that growing up, there was points in time where I was not even aware of my own thoughts. I was not even aware that I would read these books and think one way, and then come out to the real world and then find myself even thinking the opposite of what I was just thinking, right? So, which is like, magic, right? So magic is real, right? So I would find myself, or alchemy, right? So turning lead into gold, right? So I would find myself a lot of the times just thinking the world is very material. The world, we are not more than our physical bodies, right? We are not. Like, all we are is our physical body, and identifying with that. Well, then I I got what I deserved, right? I did reap what I had sown at that point. And that's the reason why I'm aligning myself more with the truth and figuring out, okay, how can I give more to the world? Because that's why we're here, on earth. And so there's that one. And then I told you guys about there's 3 books of these. I think there's 4. I don't have the second one. But there is the whole concept of, thoughts, feelings, and actions, right? I have to get the second book. Not like that has a direct correlation with the Holy Trinity that I'm talking about, but they do talk about it in this book, specifically the Sadie and Carter Kane series, where they've got the Osiris. That's where I got that information, just so you guys know, that I talked about in my previous book. Osiris, my previous video. Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Okay, Horus is the reason why we have what's called an hour. Okay, that's the reason why we call it the horizon. Okay, when we look to the horizon, right, we see the sun coming up and everything else. Yeah, I want to share this with you guys, and this is my little library I wanted to talk about and kind of correlate all those things together. I want to talk about Star Wars, the living force, and mentorship, right? So when we start to doubt and we start to find ourselves thinking, oh, all that stuff is not real, then we're aligning ourselves with something that we have to be careful, right? Because that is the path to the quote unquote dark side, right? And I mean, the thing that I like about the Star Wars series, and especially the later ones, is that Luke went and he stood right next to his father, and at the end, he was able to save him in a way before he died. He was able to bring him back to the light. I don't know if you guys knew this, spoiler alert, but he was able to. And so I find that very interesting. I find that as a guiding thing that, can help us all to raise our frequency and raise our energy and raise our level of consciousness. And speaking of which, I want to tell you guys about my most recent experience with the Liftoff tape, the Bob Monroe's tape called Liftoff. And what I like about it, not just that I like it, but what I was able to experience recently when he has us go up in our resonant energy balloon, protected by our resonant energy balloon, and he has us go higher and higher and higher and higher, and then come back down, and then go higher and higher and higher and higher, and then come back down, and then all the way to the top. Well, when I went to the top level there, I was able to look back down and see my body just laying there in my bed, just, eyes closed, breathing. So I think that's interesting. And, it's maybe that'll give some people some hope to keep going with it, keep practicing, and keep experiencing, right? I haven't been able to leave the room yet, but I've at least been able to see my body laying there, and I did not freak out. I was able to remain calm and just, and I'm gonna keep going and see if I can. Oh, another thing. I mean, I find myself looking at these things so many times, just seeing, for example, so my wife's battery died, and my wife's car, not her battery, my wife's car's battery, she had an appointment, and we woke up, and this is literally what I just did yesterday, and so I had to spend like $700 to fix it. Well, I figured out that it wasn't the starter for the car that was messed up. It was the jump starter that we had used, because somebody left a light on, probably my son, inside of the car, right? So obviously the battery's gonna die. And so yeah, I mean, I got this new starter. I had to get this new jump starter. I did replace the starter and everything else for the car. I don't know if you know anything about cars, but regardless, what I want to say is that I needed it for it to charge. And this morning, right before I woke up, I was in the dream state, and I went to the charger, and I made sure that it was at 100% out of body, right? So I'm still staying in my house, but I was able to gather information from in my garage, and it's at 100% charge now. And I was having, I was like, hey, is it gonna be able to charge or not? And it did eventually. And I was able to, once I woke up and I was in my body, I did confirm that it was at 100%. You know what I mean? So I hope that makes sense to you guys. But yeah, we're getting to the 25-minute mark. I know I've been rambling on this video. I did have a little bit of coffee, so maybe that might be a part of the reason why. But I just wanted to share with you guys my library, and maybe to give you guys some kind of perspective, my perspective. I want to hear your perspective because that's what makes us unique in life. And so, yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up. And I'm looking forward to hitting 200 subscribers, which were really early. I thought it would happen by the end of the year. And so by next month, we will be giving away $100. And then we're going to be giving away $200, and, you know, so on and so forth, giving away more and more and more. And the reason why I want to do that is because I feel like that's one of the best ways to connect with people. It's not that we need to focus on money, because money is not everything, okay? And maybe that's the reason why Mind Over Matter and William have not reached out to me, because they're like, hey, look, you know, maybe this information that I just received from this video is worth more than the money that you would have given me. And I think that that's something to be looked at as well. But some people, we need money sometimes, you know? It's just the way that the world we live in, it's just the way that it is. And so, yeah, I would love to be able to connect more and more people and raise their level of awareness. And even if you don't win the money, you know, don't worry. There's information in this channel. It's worth way more than any amount of money, really, in my opinion. Because, you know, I've told you guys before, I've met these people that have all the money in the world, but they don't have, you know, much of anything in terms of spirituality, and you know, they're not very happy. So and I mean, you can see it. Just look at these people on YouTube that are quitting YouTube. I mean, they have their dream already come true, and why would you give that up? Why? Because they forgot the main thing, right? They forgot their integrity. They gave up their integrity, right? You know, and what can I say to you? I mean, you'll find it. You know, take a step back, and if you want to come back and share with us again, then that would be great. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Peace.